Press play.
Let's move on to the topic of the entire show, which is an hour and a
It's only
half
taken
in.
an hour and a half to get in, guys. But I
Hey, but
appreciate
there's a
you
lot of
sticking
things we
with
got to
it.
talk about. You know, there's a lot of
Yeah,
things
of
we got to get
course.
into.
Of course.
Turbo Kid, 2015, written and directed, and I'm grabbing on this info from IMDb. So, Michael, if you know more than me, correct me, please.
By all means.
Written and directed by Francois Simard, Anouk Whistle, and Johan Carl Whistles. And then we have the cast. Monroe Chambers is the kid. Lawrence
Right.
LeBouf is Apple.
These are all French names.
Yeah, for real. Michael Ironside as Zeus. Edwin Wright as Skeletron. Aaron Jeffrey as Frederick. And then Romano Zari as Bagu. Bagu?
Bagu?
What, either one.
Babu Freak?
This is Babu Freak. Oh my god! Don't bring that guy back up. What a legend. Michael, this was your choice on your list of movies for us to watch. You won on the last one. Before we get into it, why'd you choose this one? When did you see this one? Or if you haven't seen this one at all, what are your thoughts on this? We can get right into like the meat of this movie.
Yeah, let's jump in. So I saw this movie on a whim. I think maybe a year or two, maybe it was still 2015 when it came out when I watched it, but it was on Netflix. And I was just like immediately drawn to it just by the aesthetic. I was like, interesting. It reminds me of like an old 80s, maybe 90s, like toy commercial or something like that. And it was just really interesting, like how even in the trailer, it was like super low budget, but they kept it super engaging and interesting and had me hooked. Like it didn't take away from it being so like low budget. Like even in the movie, like there's no cars.
Yeah.
FYI.
Yeah.
They're all running around in bicycles, and it's just so funny because it's like that just sounds silly just talking about it, but they do it in such a way where it's like you're not even thinking about it, or you don't even really notice it that much. Because it's just like, they do such a good job with the pacing and the writing of it, and even the chase scenes are just kind of like over the top, and it kind of works in a weird way because it's like you would think like they would detract from the movie, but it doesn't. It just makes it more engaging and more fun, and honestly kind of funny, just like how some of them just like, I don't know, I feel like a guy exploded, like he ran into something or like exploded, and I was like, that's so funny. But like going back to what we were talking about with Stranger Things, nostalgia, right? Like we come back to that. It's such a major thing as us as people, is like we love nostalgia. We love just looking back and thinking of better times throughout our lives. And I think, millennials, maybe not so much Gen Z, I think we're very much like that just because of the state of the world. I think for me, I had just finished high school. So that was back in 2014. I have to like count on my fingers right now. That was really my first year jumping into college. I was getting my film degree, and it was one of those movies that was just so inspiring to me, just for the simple fact that, they probably didn't spend a terrible amount of money. I mean, comparatively speaking, I'm sure it was a lot to me or you, but I think in terms of like the industry, it probably was like dimes to dollars to what they spent on. And they just was so effective in storytelling. They created such a wonderful, interesting world that just you wanted to spend so much time in. And it really doesn't go too deep into anything. It doesn't say like, in 1996 there was a giant nuclear war, and now the year is 1997, the future, blah blah blah. Like it doesn't go into a whole lot of context in regards to why the world is the way it is. Obviously, there's some sort of post-apocalyptic event that kind of took place, and now they're in 1997, and the world is, this wasteland. But it's just fun. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's just a fun movie to kind of get involved in. I mean, even the costume and production and set design was just really on point for what it was, and it just felt right with the aesthetic the movie was going for. And again, it goes back to that same point. It's just like keeping the movie simple. It's like a very like coming of age kind of like, I don't want to say superhero movie, but it's almost like a superhero movie in a way. Like he's getting these powers. He's like fighting bad guys. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon kind of deal. And just becoming this superhero, becoming it just follows like the hero's journey, step by step perfectly. And I think it just does a really good job of what it does, and just really engulfs yourself in it. So honestly, it's one of my top 10 favorite movies. I've seen the movie way too many times than I can count. Um, and it's just one that I would think about a lot, even with myself, with like movies I want to make and the productions I want to put in. It was one of those movies that was like, you know what, I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
I could really just make something like this, and as long as the story's good, I know it doesn't have to be the flashiest or the nicest thing in the world, but it'll still resonate with the right people. And I think that's what's always drawn me so much to this movie is just how simple it is, but also how creative and massive the world feels, and how interesting these characters are without even giving a whole lot. Like we don't even know who the protagonist's name is for the whole movie.
Yeah.
His name's the kid, right?
Yeah.
Um, I just think it was just a phenomenal movie, and it's a little silly. It is goofy in some parts, but I think it doesn't take away from the movie. It's just very, I don't know if heartwarming is the right word,
Yeah.
but heartwarming is still word that's coming to the mind. So to me, it's a very deep personal movie that I really enjoy. And it's one I always like to throw around for people to check out if you haven't seen it already. So that is my hot take. I am very curious to hear your opinions, Robert. I'm sure you have some very controversial ones. It's going to make me run for the hills.
Oh, boy.
I'm just kidding, but I'm very interested to hear what you got to say about it, because I did really want to watch this, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. So I'm at the edge of my seat.
Yeah. So when you put this on your list and it won on the roulette that we did in the last episode, I was kind of like, I've never seen this before. I don't even know what to expect. And so sitting down and watching it, I was like, all right, let's just see what this is. I couldn't even find it anywhere. It wasn't on
Really?
Netflix. It wasn't on the major streaming services. I had to download or get a Peacock account and then watch it for free on there. But what's weird about it is that I was getting audio, like 3D back. All the audio in the background was 3D. All the voices were coming out of my left ear. And so
that's very weird.
Don't know why that was happening, but I tried multiple things to do, whatever. And I was like, I'm stuck. I'm just going to watch it here. I'm stuck with this. I got to watch this. And so I watched it. And even with that uncomfortable already precedent that I set for myself, I really enjoyed it. Like you said, the fact that the main character is called the kid, it's almost like this thing where they're like, who cares what his name is? The story is all that matters. And
exactly,
just focus on the story. And I think with the limitations that they had, they really leaned into them to the best that they could, and it kind of worked out for them. There's this random trivia on IMDb that said that the movie was supposed to be set in a desert wasteland, but due to rainy weather during filming, the acid rain was included in the storyline. And then ponds and puddles were tinted green to simulate this. And so
that's awesome.
Everything that was going on with them, they just leaned into it, And I think that shows just like the pure independent idea of like, we had this idea, we lived in this period of time that we just are nostalgic for. Let's just try to make this story that we want to make and just be creative with it. The idea of the turbo guy, what was it, turbo guy or something like that?
Turbo guy.
It was like this idea, like I mean, it was a comic book that he was inspired by, that he loved, and he created when he found the suit and then the arm
Turbo Rider, that was his name.
There we go, Turbo Rider. When he finds the suit and he has that arm piece that's like almost looks like an NES glove or something like that.
Right.
I was like, dude, this is all super cool. Even though like the CGI is not like this groundbreaking, like I mean the FX, the VFX that they put into to show off like the blasters and things like that, it didn't need to be over the top, and it wasn't like
Corridor Crew, like super like over the top. Like it was good. Like it was generally good for what it was, and it just didn't kid itself. Yeah.
And there's some goofiness, like you said, that was in it. Like the dude, like the final fight, like the body pieces are falling on top of this guy, and he's like layers and layers of just bodies on top of his head, and he just at the end just like trying to like juggle them on top of his head. And I was like, this is corny as heck, but it just plays into just the crazy idea of this movie and this story, and they're just fully leaning into it. And I was like, I love this. It's perfect. I think it was great. And the main guy, Monroe Chambers, he acted really well, not gonna lie. I thought throughout the entire time there wasn't a moment where I was like, you're kind of being weird, or like, I don't know, like he fully embraced what his character was the entire time, and I loved it a lot, honestly. And so this was a great choice from you, dude. I really enjoyed this movie a lot.
Hell yeah, I love that. Honestly, for me, just even talking about it just reminds me of just like when I used to film things like for TV when I was working at UNT for the station, and when I was just really just getting my feet wet with directing, and how just kind of see the flying off the seat of my pants, just trying to find these locations because, I'm just kind of going on a whole side tangent here, so I apologize,
No,
everybody.
go for
But
it, dude.
back in those times, everybody liked to film in the studio, keep it real safe, and what you really started running into with the TV station was that a lot of the content, even on the entertainment side, like you could obviously tell it was a university. You could obviously tell that this was filmed in like a studio, so it was like super. I hate to say it, but shitty and just like really like generic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like for
yeah.
me, it was like, and I'm not saying like I went in there like Spielberged everything out, and it wasn't like that. But I did wanted to make it a point that as low budget as it was, and how cheesy it was going to be, at least make it somewhat believable or different to what everything else that was coming out at that time. And so we did make a point to film around Denton and stuff like that. And like, permits, what was that? Never heard of her. What does that look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's so many good stories. I mean, I shouldn't say good, but definitely like funny stories now that I can kind of tell. Which luckily no one died or anything like that. We probably wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. But there's a lot of times where we just did things off the seat of our pants, and we were just like, we're just gonna make it work and incorporate it. And that went into like my short films as well in college, and just that whole dynamic. And obviously, I'm a little more older than I was then, so I'd probably do things a little bit more by the book. But just that whole inspiration of just going out and just filming something, even if it's on a shoestring budget by industry standards, and having it turn out so really well, that's awesome. And I think it just goes into a bigger point that you kind of capitalize. Like, we don't even know the kid's name. And I don't think he had like this super revolutionary character arc that just changed everything.
right.
But I think the story was really solid. And I think, for all you who are listening that want to be filmmakers or want to be writers, it's like, you got to have the story right. And if you're not going to have the story right, you better damn well have a really good, protagonist
Yep.
and characters to support this world. Because I think, going back to Kenobi, I think the story was kind of meh, but I think Kenobi being such a dynamic character and just going through those story beats as a character and developing further is what kept me engaged and kind of resonated with me. So I think
Definitely.
you're gonna do one of those two things right. Otherwise, you're gonna have a big old duty in the editing bay. So yeah, overall though, I think it's a phenomenal movie. Just very nostalgic. I think the soundtrack's dope.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
God, dude, that the production though, the production is what really just impresses me, and honestly, really inspired me even further with when I started doing props on my own and just started doing prop making on my side. I don't know if you remember that. I haven't done anything like that lately, but in the past, when I had my house back in Texas, definitely doing like props and stuff, I just felt like it just made me very very reminiscent of Turbo Kid and just being able to like just have like some stuff that you'd find around the house, like he wears like a baseball hat or what is it a helmet, like
A
a baseball
helmet.
helmet. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's part of his costume or whatever. And like it sounds silly, right? Like me describing it, but it looks convincing. Like it doesn't take me out of the movie. Because I'm like, oh, that's obviously a baseball hat, or that's obviously a Nintendo Power Glove, or whatever. It just works. Like whatever this movie did, it just works. Todd Howard style, it just works.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I think everyone did a really good job. I hope that they come up with a sequel. I know that's been something that's been tossed around for the longest time. Will that ever happen? To be very honest, I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I sincerely doubt it by this point. But if they do, great. If not, so too bad.
Did you
Um,
know that they had a short before this in 2011 called T is for Turbo?
I did look it up while we were talking earlier, and I was like, that's so interesting because like the characters look absolutely nothing like they do now, and I think that's really cool though because it's very true. Sometimes like here's a piece of advice like for anybody that's trying to make it or be filmmakers. Like sometimes just doing the proof of concept and just doing the short film, even if it's going to be shitty by any standard, like if it's just really cheap, right? maybe that's just enough to get people interested and give you that traction you need to make the actual full thing. So that's
Yeah.
actually really cool. I didn't know that. I I don't know if I want to watch it. I feel like I don't know if it's gonna live up to the Turbo Kid hype, but I think there was a really good interview they did with I think he's one of like an executive producers at Epic Pictures. Epic Pictures were the ones that did this movie, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I see you checking the databases right now, but you can quote me on that. I think they were the distributor or something like that. And they had a
Let me
real
double check. And what was the name of it that you said again?
Epic Pictures. I think that's the distributor, I believe.
I cannot find that right here.
You're good. Incredible. I think they were the distributor. I'll stand corrected if it wasn't. Or they might have been the studio that was helping out with the movie as well. But there was a very good podcast episode on the Indie Film Hustle. For those of you who do listen to that, where they just kind of talk about this movie briefly, I believe, and just the production, just all that. But yeah, I mean, that's. I don't know if there's a whole lot more I could say about Turbo Kid other than just to watch it. I guess go download Peacock, go create your account and get your headphones fixed and check it out.
Yeah. You are right. Epic Pictures Group is the ones who distributed. A couple things I do want to mention that I really enjoyed a lot about it was one, the bikes, great idea. I like weirdly there's a chase that happens on bikes. I felt the tension. I was like, this is rad. Like it's a stylistic choice, and don't know if I don't know what the reason was for that. Maybe they didn't want to pay the money.
I think it was the budget.
Yeah, exactly. It's a smart idea, and I honestly think some of the violence that happened looked really well. There is like
it was sick.
There were some moments. There was the one in the battle where they're like in that. I think it used to be a pool or something like that.
Yeah, it was.
And I forgot exactly. He like slices this dude, and his head like gets sliced in half, and then like sliced again another way. And I was like, whoever did that, it was like that is just absolute pure skill because there's nothing about it that made me think like, oh, that's like a fake prop. Most definitely, like it worked so well. I was like, why does that look like it looks too good to like be what it looks like, like
did they actually kill somebody in this pool?
Exactly. Like someone must have really died for this to happen. And I think some of even the costume choices, and I know that you mentioned it a little bit, but the dude with the helmet that looked like they had like a skull on the front. I don't know if that's not Skeletron, was it?
Skeletron, you got it.
I loved the style of that helmet, dude. The
look is insane.
The look is amazing. It just had this super cool, awesome touch to it, to where I was like, and with the frizzy looking hair on it and everything. I was like, that's awesome. And I know we talked about it a little bit, but the actual Turbo Kid like uniform, like it is so put together with knee pads. The helmet, like he doesn't even wear the original helmet that was a part of it. Like he puts it back on his own helmet because it looked better.
I want to wear this.
Exactly.
It's actually cooler.
And I was like, this is dope, And I love for the character Apple, like she is the only one that's wearing these super neon colors compared to everybody else. Like she really stands out from the rest of them. So yeah, dude, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was awesome. I highly recommend it, especially for those, like if you're somebody who likes to watch movies that, I don't know, Michael Bay, something like that. Like you're not going to like this, but if you want to be inspired, I really say watch this movie because it shows you what you can do with the limitations that you do have.
Yeah.
And I really loved it. I liked it a lot.
I think that's a great point. And I think there's a lot of there's like a lot of, I don't want to say negativity, but a lot of pessimism in the industry. It's like, well, you have to have this kind of money or, this kind of backing to do this. And it's like, absolutely not, dude. It's like, I feel like a lot of, especially like, it's going to sound corny, but like a lot of the Facebook groups that I follow, for like screenwriting and stuff, like super, super depressing. Cause you got like these people working in the industry or trying to break into the industry for like 10 years. And they're just like, yeah, I don't want to get too into the weeds about that, but it's just like they're not exactly the most like happy-go-lucky people.
Yeah,
and they're very jaded by industry, and I think you see a lot of that across the board. And I think that's just not necessarily true. You can succeed on your own terms.
Yeah,
you just have to you have to frame up success and what that looks like for you. Because if it's Spielberg level, that requires, Spielberg level of effort to get there. You know what I mean? If you want to make something like this, anybody can make something like this, within their lifetime. I don't want to say tomorrow because that's probably not true, but um, someone definitely could do this, within their lifetime with enough, thinking and creativity and putting some pen to paper and stuff like that. So I think that's phenomenal. I think definitely Michael Ironsides did a really good job as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like he's like the super deep, like flawed villain or whatever. Like he's just a straight up bad guy, but it's like he's gripping, he's charismatic, he's interesting. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know if you noticed his helmet as well before he took it off. It was like a Zeus, like Greek kind of god
Oh,
looking
really?
helmet. Yeah, it
I
was
didn't
pretty
even
sick.
catch that.
And that's the cool thing is like there's so many things in this movie that I love, but one of the big thing is the mise en scene, in the sense of like there's just a lot of things going on in every scene. It kind of gives you context to like the world, and like it doesn't outright just say in 1995 nuclear hellfire broke, like that's so corny, right? But it's
Right.
like if you could just tell things out through the set design, through the characters, it just builds this. It makes the world feel alive. Because in life, like how I just pointed out that Totoro painting in life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you didn't say like, "Hey, Mike, I'm a big Totoro fan." Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just there, and I picked up on that. You know what I mean? And
It's
and,
environmental storytelling.
exactly, which you see a lot in video games as
Yep.
well, right? So like, Bethesda does that a lot of Fallout, etc., etc. But yeah, and this movie does remind me a lot about Fallout. I love Fallout as a game
Oh, yeah,
series.
good point.
So I think that really pivoted towards that. But in general, I think just it just did a really great job of just telling the story through the scene. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, and this is just kind of like a train of thought, so I apologize. It reminds me of Book of Eli.
Oh, okay.
Book of Eli actually does that a lot. Book of Eli is not like in 1995 Soviets attacking. It doesn't. You know what I mean? It doesn't go off like that. Like it just there's a lot of environmental storytelling, and it just you get so much out of that. And I love, especially with post-apocalyptic like movies or books or whatever, when they don't tell you like the reason why the world is the way it is.
Oh,
You just
love
kind
that.
of left to your own assumptions. I
Yep.
think you probably you've probably seen that in some of the games or like movies that you've seen as well. And it's just interesting. It's way more engaging for me to kind of piece that mystery together in my head versus someone just outright telling me.
Well, it's almost like that for the book The Road by Cormac McCarthy.
God.
And that book is just so I mean, I want to Pulitzer Prize for a reason, but it's so captivating because you're following the story of this dad and his son.
Yeah.
They just mention what kind of happened. They say certain things, but you're just kind of like, that's what kind of that's what leaves this tone all throughout of almost like uneasiness, because you're kind of like, I just don't know what's happening here, and I'm just dropped into this story, and I guess we have to figure it out. And so,
did I tell you about
everything that you said is perfect. No, I actually learned about that book because the guy who made The Last of Us was heavily inspired by The Road, and so I read
such a good book. Such a good book. Depressing as hell. I read The Alchemist by Paulo Golillo. I don't know if you ever read that one.
I've heard of that before. I never read it though.
Super good book. You're like writing. You're feeling really inspired to writing this high. So I was like, okay, maybe I can read The Road and not get depressed. That's a big lie. That's a big lie. You get so sad after reading that whole book, and the movie's kind of like wild like that too. If you ever seen the movie, but
not
overall,
as good as the book, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, agreed. I think honestly, I do really like his writing style. Which, if you're a filmmaker, read some books. That's all what I recommend.
Yes,
reading books is going to make you such a better writer across the board. But yeah, overall, I think it's a phenomenal movie. I just I think overall, I think we're starting to see more of those type of independent films, especially now this year, than we probably have seen previously, start to get more of a center stage. And I think it's just going to keep growing as this decade kind of goes on. Because I think we're just getting tired of just seeing a lot of these Hollywood big budget movies all the time, like
definitely
Jurassic Park 8, The Extinction, like something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think we have an appetite more now than ever for stuff like this. We've talked about everything everywhere all at once. We've talked about that like 6 times. So I think we're going to definitely keep going in that direction, but I'm excited. Any final thoughts on Turbo Kid on your end, Robert?
No, man, it was great. I loved it from beginning to end. It was fun, nostalgic, inspiring. I mean, that is, I really, really enjoyed it. So
I got the Robert seal of approval.
Robert seal of approval.
That's a win.
Don't have much bad to say about it. You know, I really don't even want to say bad things about it because if I didn't, it's almost like, well, they were obviously limited. You know, like
Right. It's like
I can
super nitpicky.
exactly. I can say bad things about Disney because I'm like they have an unlimited bank supply. Like you know what I'm
Right.
saying? There's two different things here. So I don't really want to dog on something like this because it was just bootstrap. Let's get this done with all the limitations that we have, and you have to just respect the whole thing. So
100%.
we are 2 hours in to this show, and let's finish the show off by real quick, just a couple things. Movies releasing in July. I don't know why I kept this on here. I was literally going to delete it, but I forgot to delete it. The Minions Rise of Gru, that's on there. Let's look over that. Thor: Love and Thunder, Where the Crawdads Sing, Nope, DC League of Super Pets, The Gray Man, and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. There's a question mark on that because it's been popping up in theaters here and there randomly across the US, but it hasn't had like a full worldwide release yet. And I'm really excited for that movie to hit theaters. Michael, is there any movie on that list that you're looking forward to?
I think Nope is definitely up there for me.
Yes,
I think
the top of the list.
Yeah, I think everything Jordan Peele has done has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think he's just really doing a great job just reinventing like the horror genre, just bringing stuff that is really different. I would even go as far as to say the new Hitchcock of our generation.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because I think he's just doing really good. Like I can't say anything is similar to anything he's done before. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Us or God, what's the other one? The one that really Get Out. Exactly. I can't point at something and be like, oh, this is exactly like this.
Yeah.
And like I feel like in horror, that's such an easy thing to do. Like just point at other movies, like, oh, this is such a it's just like Friday the 13th or this is that. Like I think it's just very unique premises. It's just interesting overall. Like he does such a good job at keeping interest. I was actually thinking about the intro to Us and how it just throws that statistic about the tunnels.
Oh,
like,
that
still creeps me out to this day because I think about like, oh my god, like there's just probably just tunnels that we don't even know what they're there for underneath, and that's such a weird thing to think about, but it's true. I think definitely, Thor: Love and Thunder. I have not seen any of the Thor movies, but for some reason, I'm really gravitated to this.
What?
I think it's just, there's the Guardians. I think there's Natalie Portman. I just honestly just the aesthetic. I think since Taika Waititi's taken over Thor, I think it's just gotten so much better.
Oh, definitely.
I need to see Ragnarok for sure. I don't know if I'm going to watch the two Thors, but
you don't
definitely.
They're bad.
Jesus. So okay, well, you just saved me some time in my life, so I'll definitely put Ragnarok on my itinerary of what I need to watch, and then I think of all those off the top of my head, I mean, Marcel the clam with shoes on, or what was it, the seashell?
Marcel the shell with shoes on.
I do like the trailer for it because they threw a little Phil Collins in there.
Yeah.
Like that's also been playing a lot in my place here. So I might watch it on a whim. Honestly, it's not like top of mind for me. It's not like one of those must-see, but it looks interesting. It's A24. Yeah. I'm a little jaded after watching Men, to be honest. I'm a little bit more picky with what I watch, to be honest. I don't think it's
about that?
Do we talk about Men?
Did we talk about Men?
I feel like we talked about it in our own group chat, but I don't think we talked.
Okay, well, we don't have time to talk about it now, but I'm going to double check the time codes on the last video, see if we talked about that. Because that movie was a trip.
I was disgusting. I'm not going to get it. You're like goading me into like talking about it, but it's like, I'm just going to say I was just like, that was the first time I was actually kind of disappointed after watching an A24 film. So I will leave it at that. Other than that, God, I feel like there was more stuff that was coming out this month. It's like really, really good.
There probably is, and I didn't capture it all.
It's all good. I think that's everything off the top of my list. I'm going to kick it back to you. And you could tell me some of the hits for you.
Yeah, man. Just real quick. Nope is obviously like a day one absolute. I'm going to watch that. Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm excited for it. Already have my tickets to go. Nice. If you didn't watch any of the previous Thor movies, that's fine. The first two are not that great. I guess the only context that you're losing is the relationship between Thor and Natalie and Thor and
Jane Foster.
Jane Foster, thank you very much. But other than that, I mean, you can figure it all out in the movie. Don't even worry about it. Marcel the Shell with shoes on. I'm excited for that. A24. I'm all for it. We did not talk about Men. But it's fine. It honestly, you know what? Doesn't deserve the light of day. And then lastly, The
There
Gray
we
Man.
go.
I'm actually excited for The Gray Man.
I've never heard of that. What is that about?
It's directed by the Russo brothers, and that is with Ryan Gosling and is it Ryan Gosling? Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. And it's almost like these two hitmen coming after each other. And it's very like Jason Bourne-ish. It's coming to Netflix. I'm really excited for that. It looks like it's gonna be fun.
Why does Chris Evans look like Hitler? Eastern European Chris.
Ever since he's been done with Captain America, he just wants to keep that mustache on. I don't know what's going on with him, but he loves it.
Definitely feeling some type of way. This looks dope. Did I have not? And the Russo brothers did Marvel movies, right? They
Correct.
did. Okay,
all the big ones.
I will have to check this out. I did not know anything about this. I'm surprised. Oh, Bullet Train comes out this month. How do you feel about Bullet Train? Is that on your radar at all?
What is that? What is that?
With Brad Pitt, he's working as an assassin. It's kind of interest.
I don't know how, dude. Yes, Bullet Train. Sign me up, dude. Weirdly, Bad Bunny's in it, but I'm gonna just forget that even happened. I am really excited for Bullet Train because there's like a randomly good cast in that movie, and it just seems like it's like random that I don't know. Like I would not have pictured Brad Pitt doing a movie like this, but it's almost like he's getting close to the end of his career, and he's like, let's just do whatever now. Like let's just.
It just makes you laugh. I'm so glad you picked up on the Bad Bunny thing because I was laughing because I'm Mexican before anyone gets upset, but this dude does not know a word of English, and it just makes me laugh because like he was in the train, like in the trailer that I saw, you could tell like he was like probably practicing that line like 600 times in his trailer before he said it, but he like, I'm gonna ruin your life like you ruined mine. I'm like, bro.
They're like, can we retake it? We didn't understand what you meant when you said life. You didn't say life.
You're like, perdón?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it looks good. I might check it out on a whim. It looks promising for sure.
That's a really good point, dude. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm really excited for it. It looks fun. It looks neon-ish. Just a crazy concept. So
it looks like a good time. Yeah. It's just like one of those things we're just gonna cut loose on a Friday night.
Definitely. And then to end the podcast, guys, thank you for joining us for the whole time here. We appreciate it. Our movie review roulette. This is going to be showing what we're going to be watching next.
Oh yes,
I did the roulette. I did the roulette before we even started because my computer would not handle 3 windows open at one time.
Oh, you're wild. So you knew this whole time. You didn't even tell me.
I do know. So my list, and this is the list that we've had for the past 2 episodes. So we're just diminishing as we go. My list was Let There Be Blood, Silence, Godfather, and Seven. And Michael's list stands at Drive, La Strada, A Marriage Story, and Cinema Paradiso.
Bangers.
We did Blade Runner as the first one. This one is Turbo Kid. And for the next movie, it is going to be
a Robert movie.
No, it is actually Drive. So we're watching Drive for the next movie review.
This is just the Mike's film podcast. That's what it's going.
I'm excited, dude. You talked it up as if it's a really good movie, and I'm legit excited to watch it.
Funny story, real quick. I actually saw that they was on TV, but they had it on one of those like the Spanish speaking channels or whatever. So they did like a Spanish dub over it.
Yeah.
It was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's just Spanish dubs are so funny when on English movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited, man. It's a good one. That I'm not trying to overhype this, but that was the movie that made me want to get into filmmaking. So
that's awesome.
I'm a Drive bro, as the memes go now.
This will be my first time watching it. It is fitting because Ryan Gosling's all over the news right now for the Barbie movie that he's in.
Oh God!
But that movie is gonna be leaked before it even comes out. But
it looks like a whopper.
This looks like a great cast, dude. Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan, Bryan Cranston,
Oscar
Isaac, Christina Hendricks, Ron Perlman. Like, I'm excited. And this is Nicholas Winding Refn. So
yeah, 100%. Fun fact: I think who's the guy who played Wolverine? What's his name?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman and another director were supposed to be on this, and then it came over to Nicholas Winding Refn, or I think it went over to Ryan Gosling, and then Ryan Gosling wanted Nicholas Winding Refn to direct it. So that's how they all got involved in it. But interesting situation and how that came to be. But
it is interesting.
I'm very ecstatic. I think you will thoroughly enjoy it, and if not, I will throw in my hat. I'll hang my hat on this podcast.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us here for this 2 hour and 11-minute show. We appreciate
Jeez.
y'all. Let us know in the comments. This is going to be broken down into bits. So just let us know within the videos, within the comments, what you thought about the movies that we watched, the TV shows that we watched. Stay tuned for the next episode as we will be reviewing Drive as the main movie. And Michael, thank you for being my co-host on this show. And
Yeah,
it was fun, dude. It was fun.
for sure. For all those of you who are still awake, thank you for sticking around for 2 hours of this. Much appreciated. You guys listening to us talk about movies. But yeah, thank you so much, Robert. Always a pleasure, sir.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys. Peace out.
See ya.